Well, today I'm going to walk you through our components in our Stage 4 cap upgrade that some of you may be receiving. Inside the packaging, you're going to have a parts list with the components in it, and you're also going to have the one-page instructions to follow to do the Stage 4 cap replacement. Inside the packaging, you're going to get a replacement Stage 4 cap. There's going to be a green sticker on it that says Revision 8. The wire harness holder is also going to be housed on that cap itself. Inside the baggie, there's going to be 2 replacement nipple O-ring nipples for the top cap to going to the upper manifold, as well as a spare set of 4 O-rings just in case, and 2 packets of Dow 111, which is a lubricant for the O-rings. As far as tools you'll need a 5/32 T-handle wrench. You'll need your flat blade screwdriver, a 5/32 Allen wrench tool to go with your torque wrench, the nipple removal tool, and just in case, even though you have the packets of Dow 111, is your tube of Dow 111 from your toolkit itself. All right, so I'm going to walk you through the process and how to swap out the cap from the cap replacement procedure. This is in the instructions in the parts that we ship to you. So step 1 is going to be removing the decorative cover. The first thing to really note is make sure you isolate the machine, close your inlet and outlet, and go through the drain cycle to make sure it's fully drained. Once that's complete, it takes 5 minutes exactly to do that. Everything's drained out of the system. That means you're depressurized and you're able to take off all the wet components in the system. So to remove the cap, you just pull straight up. You have to kind of angle it a tiny bit to get the cap out of the housing. Next step is going to be disconnecting the 3 wire harnesses that are attached to the top of the system itself. One of them, it may be easier to use your flat blade screwdriver. So we're going to be taking off the pressure sensor and the TDS sensor. TDS sensor is a press-in lock, so you just press in the lock and pull straight up. Pressure sensor, you just pull out on the lock to release it. And then there is a wire harness holder on the back of the Stage 4 cap. That one you just got to pop open, and then you can get the harness out of the way. Next step is going to be removing the inlet and outlet hoses and the pressure relief valve hose. Pressure relief valve hose is just a barb fitting. You just pull on it, slide that out of the way. Next thing is going to be removing the quick release clips to remove the hoses. There may be a tiny bit of water residual left in these, so it may be a good idea to have your shop vac running with the hose next to it. There's going to be a little bit of water that's going to dribble out. Pull straight up on these clips to remove them. And then the hoses are just single or double O-rings, so you just pull to release it. And there's probably going to be a tiny bit of water that spills out of this. You can just kind of drape it out of the way. And same thing with the flow meter hose, the outlet of Stage 4, pull that out. There may be a tiny bit of water that dribbles out of here. You may need to clean up. Next step is going to be removing the 4 main bolts which hold the cap to the top cap inside the housing itself. So these are going to be 5/32 Allens. These are only in there with 20 inch-pounds, so it's not super hard to remove them. Then remove these bolts. Next step is going to be removing the 2 main pins from the actual cap. These come out with very little tension as well. And then we're going to be removing, so we can actually leave the disc, the top in place. We're going to actually pull the sensors out and the pressure relief valve. So you're going to need your 5/32 Allen again. TDS sensor and pressure sensor, they're just a single 5/32 Allen bolt. We're going to remove those 2. And these are just held in with O-rings as well. So you just pull up firmly on the actual part and you can get it removed that way. You're going to set those aside. We're going to be placing these in the replacement cap as well. The pressure relief valve has 2 5/32 bolts with this C-clip that's actually securing it down. So we're going to remove all 3 of those components. Remove that C-clip, and then you can remove the pressure relief valve. Next step is you can actually pull up firmly on the actual top cap to remove it from the housing. So when you remove it, depending on the lubrication and the O-rings, the condition of everything, these nipple inserts may stick in the top cap. If they do stick in the top cap, you can use your nipple removal tool, which is in the toolkit. Looks like this, and you can place it inside the nipple itself to remove it if it's stuck in the top cap, because you do have replacement nipples that are going to be going in here. So now that we've got everything out of the old top cap, both nipples actually stayed in this one. We're going to set this aside. And we're going to first place our nipples inside of the top cap and lubricate those O-rings. So it's going to be in your Ziploc baggie from the parts. The O-rings are already going to be pre-installed, but you will have to lubricate them. So we're going to grab our tube of Dow 111. Put a fair amount on your finger, and then we're just going to lubricate these O-rings well. Just make sure all the surface area is covered. So we've got our first one lubricated. I'm going to actually feed these into the actual top cap here. You'll feel two kind of pops when it actually seats in. That means both O-rings have seated in it, and then we're just going to do the same thing to the second nipple. So we've got those lubricated. We're going to pop this in. So now those two nipples are in place. Obviously, the O-rings are already installed, so we're good with that. So we don't need any of the spare parts that are in here. These are just in here just in case for the additional O-rings. So the next step is we can actually place the top cap in place, and then we'll reinstall the sensors. Easiest way to remember where the direction is, the larger fitting is always points towards the back of the machine. That's where the pressure relief valve and the main feed side for stage 4 is. So we're going to line that up. You can also line it up with the two nipples on the bottom side here. You'll feel that line up on top, and you just press down with a little bit of force, and you'll feel those two sets of O-rings seat. We can then start placing our sensors and pressure relief valve back in. Double check the lubricant level on the pressure relief valve. All of these have O-rings on them. This one's still pretty well lubricated, but if your machine's been in use, you may need to re-lubricate it. We're going to snap that in place, and then place our C-clip on the actual pressure relief valve. We're just going to thread these in by hand first before we torque it. All the torque specs for these bolts is going to be 20 inch-pounds, and we're going to use our torque wrench that's in the toolkit to actually do that. Don't tighten these yet. We're just going to hit all these with the torque wrench in a moment. Next step is going to be installing the pressure sensor and the TDS sensor. So the pressure sensor is going to be placed on the outlet side of stage 4. Same thing with the TDS sensor. Double check the lubricant on it. All of these are good. And seat those in. And then we're going to use our 2 bolts, 2 5/32 that we took off the old cap, and replace them. All right, now those are just hand tightened. We're going to grab our torque wrench, double check on the gauge that it's actually set to 20 inch-pounds. To adjust the settings, if you need to, you just pull out on the handle and rotate the arrow to adjust your torque settings down to 20. And then we're just going to check all these, make sure we're torqued down correctly. All right, so now those are good. We're going to place our main 2 pins into the top cap itself and feed those all the way through. Double check on the backside to make sure you actually seated it all the way past and it's fed all the way through itself. Those are good now. So the next step is we're going to be placing the 4 main bolts back into the cap. So we're going to use the old ones that we pulled from the previous cap. Drop those in place. And then these are going to be torqued to the 20-inch pounds as well. Now that those are torqued, we can start putting our hoses back on. We can place the main inlet for the stage 4, double check the lubrication on that O-ring and apply more lube if you need to on that fitting. Snap it into place and then lock in your clip. And we're going to do the exact same thing for the outlet. Double check the O-rings on the flow meter, make sure those look good, lubricate them if needed, and then seat it all the way in. Once you're fully seated, press down on the clip to lock it in place. You then take our pressure relief valve hose and just slide that onto the barb fitting. And then finally, feed your harnesses back through that harness holder, and you can lock that down. And then we're going to clip in our pressure sensor and our TDS sensor. Make sure those harnesses are out of the way. Once everything's all back together, you can go plug the unit back in and basically go through refilling the system and make sure you don't have any leaks or drips anywhere and run the system while you have the cap off. Once it's ran, you can replace the main cap on top of stage 4 once you're done. And to feed that through, there's a U, like a U cutout on the actual cap. Just line that up for the pressure relief valve line and just snap it into place. And then you're ready to go. Thank you.